Yeah, I sent you this passing of Kongudir Varkai, right? I mean, if you have any questions, we could discuss that. See, the one thing which comes out of the other editions is that there is some freedom in making seal. The two editions of Raghav and the Sauri Perumal take the last line, not Nariyavum Ulavo Ni Yariyum Puve. That is Swaminatha's breaking of that. But for them, it is Nariyavu Muravo Ni Yariyum Puve. So the Ni is shifted to the third seal. What it does is that it makes the third seal a Ven seal with 3 aside rather than the second seal. Except that you would have then Ner, which would be Venba, Vendalai. It doesn't make any major difference. Only it shifts the Ven seal from second position to the third position, right? I mean, we should realize that there is some freedom in breaking the seal as there is freedom in breaking the lines, right, which you'll see later. So nothing is set on stone, right? When you edit a Tamil manuscript, you see, you have some freedom. So in this context, I would like to bring what Andrew has observed in his automated parsing of all Kurundohai poems. For every 100 poems, for every 100 Asariya Thalai, there are about 62 Vendalai. Right? So there is the relationship is more. Right? I mean, this is interesting for me in the sense that if Asariya Thalai is the determining factor in giving the Osai of Asariyappa, I mean, that is a big one of the principles. Then it suggests to me that there is no pure Osai. I mean, you could have a mixture of Osai, right? So if you look at it from the point of view of music, you don't require to have a pure raga, right? I mean, some maybe I know nothing about music, but if there is a theory that raga should be pure, right? That is, you cannot mix one raga with another raga. Here, it is not the case. You can make one Vosai with another Vosai. Then that would be one differentiating factor between Vosai and the raga, the music. Right? I thought that is an interesting difference, right? And it also says, because this becomes important, as I mentioned in one of the earlier meetings, that later on, Sangha Padal is set on music, right? It is set on Carnatic music, and also parallelly, it's also set in Pan, which is based on Tevaram Pan. So the setting of the Pan and Raga are different from Osi. That's my point, right? So so when people say in a very informal way that you can set Sangam poems into music, it doesn't mean they are setting it to Osai as it is conceived in theories of prosody. Now, Going to the other question of Vendalai, Vendalai, that is Kaichir, that is a seed with three asai. I'm trying to use all terms so that you pick up what. Usually in literature they say Kaichir. So Kaichir, you understand that seed which has three asai and ends in near, and this is specific to Venba. So all this information is loaded in the term Kaichir. So even though not only we saw that Talai is mixed, see, you have Asariya Talai mixed with Vendalai, which we saw in the poems also. I mean, the difference between Asariya Talai and Vendalai is basically see, the Asiriya Talai is what's called Ondriya Talai, that is, there is a homogeneous collocation, Ner with Ner, Nirai with Nirai. Whereas Venba is the opposite of it. It is Ondra Talai. See, the Talai should be different, Ner with Nirai and Nirai with Ner. So even though Asayappa accepts or admits the Vensir, I'm not talking about Talai here, it's the Vensir. There are certain conditions according to in the grammar. There are two conditions. One is Asayappa should be surrounded by Asariya chief should be surrounded. Let me put it this way: the three Movasai chiefs should be surrounded by Irasai chief. Right? So it means that you cannot have a whole line with three asai. Right? See, the seed for Asariyappa is Irasai. So when you have three asai seed, then it comes similar to the Venba seed, but you cannot have all line filled up with the Ven seed, and it should be surrounded, that is before and after, by what's called Yetchir. Yetchir is the Irasai seed. And when you have so when you have a line that is Adi, where all seeds have Nalasai, it is broken into two two lines of Movasai each, and it should become 1G, right? Because the 1G has two Irisir Adi. So that means you will not have an Asariya Adi with Muchir, Movasai Chir throughout that. Then if you look at the empirical data, you find from this book by Pichai and Sangappa Yapial, he claims that statistically you have more lines in Asariyappa which are Yerchir, that is, which are Irasai C. I mean, that is clear, because Triyasachir is not the favorite feature of Asariyappa. And then also he says that in okay okay uh, and also okay yeah, see the most common place for Assyria Chir, sorry, Vensir. The most common place for Vensir in Assyriapa is the second Sir. See, in the actual example we have in the third Sir. Third Sir or what? Where is it? Yeah. Okay. See, in the way Swaminatha has, see, the Uravo Ni is a Vensir. That's the second Sir. Right? According to this analysis of Yapu, that is a favorite place for Vensir to come in Assyriapa. Right? In the other edition, where the Vensir is shifted to the third place, right? Then it is different from the common pattern of where Vensir could occur in Assyriapa. Right? So these are the two conditions for Vensir to occur in Assyriapa. Right? So
can I ask
yeah.
another? So does Vensir, is it more likely to occur in the last line than in the preceding lines? Does he have that data?
Yeah. What he says is that okay. He doesn't say that. He doesn't. Okay. So he doesn't say that. What he says is in no Sangam poem there is you don't have more than two Vensir in a line. We already saw that you cannot have all four. You cannot. This would mean that you cannot even have three. Right? See, one is common. Having two Vensir in an Assyrian Adi is also found, but never four. And as far as the position of seed, I'll have to read it again, but I don't remember to have read that. I will tell you if he makes any specific statement about that. I mean, if you want to know the technical term, what I call place, the place, four places, something. The term they use is nilam. Right? So any nilam would be the place where either Sir occurs or Asai occurs or whatever occurs. The later grammarians use the Sanskrit word tanam, right, in the same technical sense. Right? Before going to Sir, I would like to bring a couple of points which relate to the discussion we had earlier. I mentioned that there are two systems. One is two assay system with Ner and Nirai, and another is a four assay system, Ner, Nirai, Nerbu, and Nerebu. The four assay system is it goes out of favor from the time of Kakipodinium. If Kakipodinium is contemporaneous with Tolhapium, there are two parallel systems right from the time of Tolhapium. There are two questions which arise by the theory dropping out or moving from four assay systems to two assay system. One is the grammarians who opt for two assay system also opt for dropping of Mathirai from the Urupu. Right? Tolhapi has Mathirai Eluthu as I see. See, Yaparangalam drops Mathirai, right? So my guess is there is some connection between the two. These are not unrelated theoretical changes. And to the third one, another one is that these authors who drop the 4-assay system also go for null-assay cheer. Right? So Tolapir clearly says that there can be only 3 seeds. 3 is the maximum size. 3 assays in a seed. So the 3 assays are the maximum for a seed, and null assay seed is admitted by by Yaparangalam. When we go to seed, we say that Sangampa itself has counterexamples to the Tolapir statement that you cannot go more than 3 seeds. So these 3 facts, like dropping Uriyasai, which is Nerbu Nerebu, and dropping Mathirai as a Urupu, and admitting 4 as a chief, might be related to each other as a theoretical change, but I don't know what the relationship between the two. And the other thing which I have been mentioning is the relationship between Asai and Seer and Osai. Right? I sent a handout to see with the title Asai and Osai. There, Perasiriya gives the example of Amma Vali Kelai Tholi with the long vowel at the end. And he says that Amma Vali Kelai Tholi with a short vowel doesn't affect the Osai. Right? That is the statement he has. I think that is clear easy to understand because the second seed Vali ends in a short vowel. So fourth seed also ends in a short vowel. So there is a balance, you see, in the Mathirai. Between seeds, and so this feature of the balancing Mathirai as well as the types of letters would come under Todai, right? And Todai and Vannam, right? So Todai and Vannam are one aspect of Osai. I mean, it doesn't alter the four-way system of Osai, but it embellishes the four-way system. So this would be an, even though Perasiri uses Osai as a kind of generic term, I would like to differentiate between Osai as a defining feature of Va as well as Osai as a feature embellishing the basic 4 types of Osai. And as I found one example of Perasiri, I am not able to locate it yet, I will find out. He finds out a line where the Asai is defective in the sense that it is a war Asai, not more than one. But he justifies it in an interesting way that when you say it, you can prolong the vowel of the defective Asai and then meet the requirement of Tadai, right, of collocation. So it seems among the commentators, Perasiriya seems to give greater weight or greater importance to Osai to determine the seal structure of a line. Even when there is no eruth, there is no Mathirai, you can create it when you sing is a wrong word. I mean, when you recite a poem. So and also he gives another example that for making Asai and from Asai to make Si, it doesn't have to be linguistic sound. That is, it doesn't have to come from the alphabet, or it doesn't have to come from the matra assigned to the letter. So what he basically talks about here is what we call the onomatopoeic words, right? So the words of sound symbolism could also make an assay and also contribute to see. So it is not the pure letter combinations and word assay combination. The example which I gave in that handout is Kahranum Tandottu Pennai. So this is of the Palmera tree, whose the fronds making the noise, which is right. So kah is with two idam would make it with two matra, right? 1.5 and half. Sorry, it is two matra. Kah would be one matra. The first idam would be treated as a pure consonant. So kah would be one, and in Vattarabadai, the second consonant is given one matra, so kah would be two matra. In terms of asai, it would be ner, right? So you have an asai formation purely by sounds, you see, not anything from the alphabet. So all these point to me that the oral aspect of it is as important as the linguistic aspects of forming asai and seed, right? So now let's go to
Professor Navani, can I ask?
Yeah, sure. Right.
It's kind of a basic question, but I think I missed something early on, so I apologize for that. But my question is about nairs of a short syllable. Because that, I mean, for example, in the second line, right, you have sepa, measured as a nair.
Yeah. Sorry, repeat it. Yeah.
So my question is about nails of short syllables.
Yeah, right.
Because that sounds not unintuitive to me. For example, sepad in the second line of the singular form. Why is the a nair? I mean,
sep is nair.
Word boundaries matter.
Sep is nair because nair is defined as having a short vowel or a long vowel. Here it is a short vowel, right?
Yes, but why? So in the case of short vowel nairs, I saw that. But how does one decide if it's a nair then? If even a short vowel qualifies as a nair, is it?
So if you break that sepad, so the break would come sep, then and then tu, right?
Right, but if word boundaries don't matter, which I understand they don't, then I would intuitively say that dukan is nerai. Nirai, sorry.
No, because of the position length, the double P in there. Nirai can only have a single consonant in between.
Yeah, the consonant is the
only way to
breaking
know,
point.
in fact. Right?
The consonant is the breaking point.
Yeah.
Right? As in a closed
level. The third, the v, right? Se, pa. These two are nairs for sure. But then the doesn't have a ka after it.
So you break at the end of tu, right?
Yes, but I'm sorry for.
No, that's fine, right? So it is chep pa du, right?
Right.
Yeah, you could take seppa either as nair as I have given, or nair bu. It's padu could be nair bu, right? So there you have word. See there. Okay. Let us ignore the word boundary. Okay, so Asariyappa has a condition that it would have Irasachir, right? Right? So the Irasachir would tell you that you have the break because you have reached Irasai there, right? So it is by the Asai. Even if you don't know what the words mean, right? Or as Asarya says, you are an illiterate and you listen to that, still you can say the break comes there, right? That is purely determined by the Asai properties of each pa. Okay.
So in this case, would you say that the short syllable ner only comes at the end of an asai?
No, it could be in the beginning of, as you have in Kamam Ser, it's ner, right? The first one is the beginning, and the next one.
Yeah, but that's a long syllable.
But that's a close syllable, yeah.
No. You could have ner in the with a short vowel in the beginning also, right? So if you take the first one, you have an option kongu there, either ner nirai or nervu ner. Right? Kong is a short vowel.
Yes, but it has the consonant that blocks it, so that's, I mean, I'm only, for some reason, bothered by the short syllable ners, which have no other consonant, but I mean, I'm probably just need to sort of explore myself in this.
Yeah, so you are very, yeah, go ahead.
I was interested in this too, so I checked the frequency of heavy syllables, which would be syllables with a long vowel or syllables with a short vowel and a final consonant. And at the beginning of a chir, almost no ner is light. It's less than 1%. But at the end of a chir, then if you have a ner asai, then it can be light pretty often. But at the beginning, it's very rare, I think, to have a light syllable in that position.
Andrew, do you have a metrical parser for?
Yeah, he did some metrical parser with.
I do, yeah.
Okay. That's good.
Can you see that? That's interesting.
I sent it to an analyzer, and he is fully free to share it with you. Or
I will send you that, and also it seems there is another one which Cheviar uses for parsing. Okay. I can send you both. But the dialogue I'm having with Andrew is: do you need the notions of light and strong, right, for understanding? It seems, I mean, obviously it is based on single nucleus and double nuclei, right? So, so that is a concept different from light and strong, right? So, I don't know the consequences of imposing that light and strong concept into single and double nuclei concept of making asai, right? Maybe, as he just now said, it throws some light on what can occur in the first part of the syllable, etc. Right? So my take now on that is I'm not yet sure what we buy by that, by using a system different from the Tamil traditional system.
Although it does, I mean, if heavy and light, if by heavy, as Andrew just said, we simply mean a long vowel or a closed syllable, that is totally within the system of Tamil.
Yeah, but we are using
Prosody,
a different conceptual arrangement, right? We talk in terms of not matra, duration, but in terms of heaviness of the syllable, right?
Except that those, I mean, my understanding, and maybe this is colored by northern theory, that those are already interchangeable, right? So that length and heaviness are already interconvertible to each other, right?
Yeah, if they are interconvertible, if that is true, then we don't have any special gain by bringing in those things, right? What do we gain by changing this? Here?
Well, except I think that Taliyah's question. I'm sorry, I'm coming in late.
Yeah,
but it seems that Taliyah's question, raises
would be
this,
answered
right?
by that. That's what I understand,
Right.
right? But if it's interconvertible, then the others should also answer, right?
I mean, I guess it depends on. I mean, I think the test case is about the beginning of a seed and whether it can be a light syllable that's scanned as nayad.
Yeah, right.
Right.
It is. I'm sympathetic to finding ways of rescuing the tradition, because if what we mean by syllabic weight is a function of vowel length and coda consonant, so in other words, consonant position, both of those concepts are there. And so, for instance, in the definition of nirai, I would define a nirai asai as something that begins with a light syllable, because it has a double vowel nucleus, and there's only a single consonant that's allowed to come between the two vowels.
Right.
That is the same as a light syllable, but it seems that it's not spoken of that way. And so I'm wondering, what if there's one of the reasons why not speaking in terms of binary weight and light and heavy, it might be a sensitivity to the fact that there is non-binary weight in Tamil metrics, which Kevin Ryan believes. So that would be a reason for avoiding the light and heavy distinction.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I mean, this probably also would answer the question why you don't have a sequence of long vowel and short vowel. It's not an it's not an asai, right? A counterpart of nirai, right? So we have no reason, no explanation why only short and long when it comes to nirai, not long and short. If it goes purely by matra duration, each would be 3 matras.
Right.
Right. So there must be some reason for not including one, but including the other. And maybe if it comes from a theory of light and heavy syllable, that is an advantage, I would say. That's what I buy by that. Right? Yeah.
Right. I see what you mean.
Yeah, right. Before going into C, I just speculated about the dropping of Uri asai, that is the asai of, Tared, did I answer your question? Did the discussion answer your question? Yeah, you have.
Yes,
Okay.
it was very helpful. Thanks.
Okay, okay. So my speculation is that if you look at linguistically, the words end in consonant U, that is ending in both Kuttiyalagaram and Muttiyalagaram, which both come under Nirebu. They are large in number in Tamil, right? Maybe largest, I haven't done a count of that, right? So having been the largest or large number of words ending in CU, you have a greater possibility of breaking asai and also C with a full word. Right? So see that. So later on, when this Nerbu and Nerebu idea is dropped, I think that also is also conducive for the change about the understanding of poetry. One is Silesha becomes very important, and Silesha you could make when you break the verse, you see, into two. That's a major contributor for Silesha. So having the isomorphism between word and seer is no more premium in the later one, and also in the later period, there is a greater practice of singing these Sangam poems, for example. So when it comes to singing, there is no correlation between the word boundaries and the beat or whatever is there in the singing notes. You see, it's not there. So this is purely my speculation that why Nirbu Narebu were dropped in the theatre, right? So this takes us to the point when it comes to Sur, namely what are the guiding principles of making seed, or what are the overarching the architecture for making seed. One is, as I already mentioned, is the Osai, which determines how the seed is structured. I think they also have an idea of semantic transparency, which is isomorphic word boundary and seed boundary. So the later grammarians, I don't think it is in Tolhapium, they have a term called Vahayuli, which is a seed where the word is broken. The technical term they use is morichidevu, mori in the sense of word. So when a word is disrupted, broken or whatever, then you have you can have an asai purely determined by the osai, and that would be vahai muri. Right? Vahai, I think, is used in the sense of coming from the verb vahu, divide, right? So a word is divided, and the division uli stays, right? So a seed where the division of word stays, or something like that. And they also, even at the time of Yapurangalam, they say that the seed which is isomorphic with the word, or seed boundary which coincide with word boundary, is Sirappu Asai. Sorry, Sirappu Chir. Right? So they make a distinction between Sirappu Chir and Sirappil Chir. So Sirappu Chir is one where there is an isomorphic relationship between Chir and word. These are the two guiding factors in determining the seed. Right? The commentators of Tolhapiam talk about this relationship. The Sayurial 9 gives a sutra which is in that handout with a title Seer, right? Asayum Seerum Isayadu Serti Vahuttanar Unartal Vallor Are. Right? Asayum Seerum Isayadu Serti. So you join or merge Isai. I mean, Isai is used in the sense of Osai, also in the sense of Todai. I mean, it is used in multiple ways. Let's say here it is Osai, right? And Serti. Isai, Asayum Seerum Isayadu Serti. Vahuttanar here is Mutracham, Vahuttu Unartal, right? So the Vahuttu here is what we call parsing. I think it's also called scanning, right? Yeah, scanning or parsing is not good use for this, for breaking seeds.
No, both are good.
Both are good, right? Yeah. So Vahu is here passing or scanning. Unartal, they make you feel, that's the readers feel. Vallor are, that's the way the expert in poetry do, right? So they had to match or map, maybe the map is a better word. They had to map Asai and Seed with Isai, right? If you take Isai, here is Osai. So the Asai and Seed are mapped with Osai. So that is the one which experts poets not only do, they make you realize, right? So they talk from the point of view of the reader, and then they talk about the things where it doesn't take place, right? You see, one is from a Tirukkural line which Perasariyar discusses. Nilamisai, that's one seed, Nilamisai. Needuval is another seed. War is a final seed. Nilamisai, Needuval, war is a sentence, but in poetic line, it consists of three seeds, Nilamisai, Needuval, and war. So war is the word which is passed as Needuval and then war. So Perasir points out is that this is Purul Sidavu, right? You see, you break the semantic coherence of war, but it is needed for the Osai, right? See, the Venba Osai should have the final one with Warasai, and that is taken care of this. So, so one could argue that the first consideration is to have to have semantic transparency, which all Sandhi, without Sandhi addition try to do, but they don't mind spoiling the Osai. Right? So you cannot have the Osai with the Sandhi split editions of that. But here, I mean, until modern printing, they didn't want to sacrifice Osai. Right? The Osai is very, very crucial. So he argues that even though Needuval war breaks the semantic coherence or semantic integrity of word, it is acceptable because it maintains the Osai integrity, right? So that is also crucial. So the Osai is the final arbiter of Asai formation, right? And then as common with commentators, he takes asayim serum, which is a conjunctive construction with taking as a lace, as a site for extrapolation. He says that it could extend to syntax also, right? Not only the semantic integrity of words, but also semantic integrity of phrases, right? Right. So the example he gives is this is Agananoru Kadavul Valthu, that's also in that seed handout. Nudala Dimaya Natta Migalattu. Right? Here all the words are destroyed. Kayyadu Kanichiyodu Maduve. Yeah, that's the line. So he takes, interestingly, this Ihal Attu Kayyadu. Right? So Ihalattu is Perecham, right? And Kayyadu is his head. So you don't separate the head from the modifier, right? That's the general syntactic thing, right? But here you had to break the line, right? Because of the Osai requirement, and therefore you bring Kai to the next line, right? So so from if I use linguistic jargon, I mean this is called island constraint. See, when you have a noun phrase, see, you don't insert anything between the head and the modifier. So this breaks that syntactic coherence or syntactic integrity of a phrase, and that's also allowed because of OSI, right? I wonder how they remembered all these poems and then found exceptions to that.
I mean, it's to your point. It does seem like it seems very anomalous to do that, doesn't it?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Right. See, you cannot say like Vanda Payan after saying Vanda, saying one full line and then say Payan at the end. That's not allowed unless you stack the different relative classes, right? I mean, this is, I don't understand, but where are they giving so much primacy, premium to OSI in determining the seed structure, goes one step further to say that even if say he says, you could have, let's say the specific example, you have a seed structure which fits in Venba, right? But the OSI might be plural OSI, which is for Kalipa. Right? So he goes to the extent of saying that if the OSI is Kalipa, even though the seed structure is Venba, it is Kalipa. Right? So he ignores all the structural properties of a line and then decide by the vote. My problem is I don't know what Tulalosa is. I cannot say whether he's right or wrong. So if we accept him at face value, for him OSI even exceeds the Talai and seed structure. So he didn't find any actual example of that. Maybe he had in his mind. So he constructs an artificial line which says Ma Servai, Ma Servai, Ma Servai, Ma Servai. Right? So this is 3 seed. And also it is Venjir. See, ending in, I mean, it violates the rule that you cannot have 4 Vensi in a single line, so it will throw it out of Asiriyappa by that criterion. So that is one reason why it should be Kalipa rather than Asiriyappa, but it's all Vensi, right? So line with 4 Vensis could be Kalipa, right? Right? That's because of OSI. I mean, it's not just OSI as you could see, because Asiriyappa has other restrictions that you cannot have 4 Venba in a line, right? So that has something to do with structure also, right? But the structure is structure ultimately relates to OSI. Why there is a condition that when Asiriyappa cannot have more than 2 Vensi in a line? There must be a reason for that, right? And the reason could be by OSI, something like that. So for him, if you have, to put it differently, earlier we saw the restriction that Asiriya Adi cannot have 4 Vensi, right, as a statement of fact. If it comes, it will belong to Kalipa. Right? You cannot treat it as an Asiriyappa. Right? So that is the importance of the importance of OSI in determining the seed structure. Right? And he gives this is very in fact, I just now I said that I don't know what Tullalose is, and Perasiriya says that those who have those who have sharp ears and then fine sense can understand that this is Tullalose. Right? So ultimately, it depends on subjectivity of understanding the osai, which unfortunately is lost now. Right? So you don't have that. Okay, and then just for our interest, he discusses another thing that even though you break a word into different seeds, right? And the one seed, even though it is broken from a word, could function as a word when it comes to sandhi. Right. So he gives the example from Agananuru, Mammar Nenjinan Thuldu Nendradhuve. That's a line. And the seeds are Mammar, Nenjinan, Thuldu Nindra, Radhuve. So the last seed is Radhuve. And if it is Adhuve, it gets Vaglide. So to get an Vaglide, then it should be Mutyalugaram, that is monosyllabic with short vowel. So the actual integrated form would be Nindradhuve. Right? So if it is Nindradhuve, it should be Nindrade. Right? Nindradu would be Kutyalugaram. So when you add ye, U would be lost, and therefore it should be Nindrade. Because C requires it to break it as Nindra and Aduve, and Aduve behaves like as if it is an independent word. Right? But I think Perasiri is wrong here. Yeah, this has nothing to do with say the Adu has some strange behavior. You see, if you if you look at the commentaries, you'll find both forms. You see, one is you will have Enbadum, also you'll have Enbaduvum. Right? So so the Adu allows the glide when it should not allow the V glide. So it is a peculiar linguistic property of Adu. It has nothing to do with seed. But anyway, Perasiriya makes that point. Right? Okay. Now. Let's see. See, we know that seed is composed of asai, right? And if you have two asais, ner and nirai, you would have four possibilities, 2 to the power of 2, right? So you have ner nirai, nirai. There are four possibilities. If you have 4 asai, it would be 4 to the power of 2, so that would be 8, right?
16,
right? 4 to the power of 2, yeah, right, yeah. So one point is that the theoretical change from 2 asai system to 4 asai system has some theoretical consequences, right? The number of seeds available would be different in both theories. I mean, I took a long time to discover this because after reading so much on process, Tamil Yapu, they simply say that Yapurangala dropped this, added this, and they don't say why they did that. Anyway, so one is okay. If you take the number of asai, the possibilities are or asai seed, a seed with 1 asai, right? That has extremely limited nilamar, extremely limited place to occur. See, one is at the end, the last seed of Enba, and like that. So the Vorasite seed is not common in in the formation of seed. And the second one is erosive seed, that is a seed which has two asci, which is extremely common. And because of this commonality, it's also called earth seed, the natural seed. Not only that, it is a seed which is found in all parts. All four parts. You could have earth seed, and the third one is mooresite seed. And the mooresite seed has preferential differences in parts. See, for example, Assyria part does not have three ascite seed, right? Only when the Venba seed comes and sits in Assyria part, you will have a three ascite seed. So in that sense, the mooresite seed has restrictions compared to erosite seed. So in this context, we should understand, we should know the other concept. Remember that the asais are divided into two categories, Yel asai and Uri asai. So Yel asai is ner, Uri asai is nerbu, nerebu. Similarly, the seed also you have earth seed and urit seed. Okay, the urit seed has two properties. One is, as far as I could see, it occurs mostly with the mooresite seed, the urit seed. So among the mooresite seed, some seeds are privileged for a particular part. Right? And that would be called urit seed. Urit seed in the sense of specialty, a particular part. It's something like Urime Pensi, the girl you have right over to marry kind of thing. So this is a seed which is privileged for a particular part. So in that way, you could see that Venba, the urit of Venba is what's called Koichi, that is three seeds which end in ner, right? And Assyriapa has these urit. That's the only pa where urit has only two asai, as I gave in that list. Assyriapa, the urit of Assyriapa, that is erosite in Assyriapa, would have nerbu or nerebu. Right. So that is a condition of urit for Assyriapa. So you could have nerbu, nerebu. In addition, it also says that nerbu after ner and nirai, right? So so you would have ner, nerbu, ner, nerebu, nirai, nerbu, nirai, nerebu. I mean, these are the one. And in addition, you have the seeds which end in nirai, nerbu, nirai, nerebu, nirai. So these are the seeds specific to Assyriapa. And Kalipad doesn't have any urit, right? So it's more free, right? You could relatively. So if you take Vanjipa, there are two ways of looking at it. If you have two assay system, right, the 4 goes to Venba, Ven seed, and remaining 4, that is the which end in Nirai, would go to Vanjit, right? So that would be the Vanjit. But what they grammar say is that they take the 4 assay system, say, which gives 64, right? And among the 64 possibilities, 4 goes to specific to Venba, then the remaining 60 are specific to Vanjipa. That means Vanjichir, Vanjichir would have 60 Urichir, right? Right? Obviously, it's more free, right? You could use anything and make it Vanjipa. That's why Vanjipa is said to be easier one. Not easier one, you could say that it's more flexible one, right? So this okay. Okay. Then what is the function of seal, right? One is, as we have been discussing, it maps. If determines is a strong word, it maps with Vosai, right? Iramburana has a statement that Sirdane Vosayahum. So, I mean, it's ambiguous. You could say Sirdane Vosayahum, or Sirdane Vosayahum, right? Which is the strongest statement. You don't need anything else to determine Vosai Sir itself. I think that goes with Tolhapiam's statement. He says that if lion has Urichir, right? Venba Urichir for Venba and whatever, then you don't have to look at Tare at all. Right? So the Urichir would tell you what the Vosai is, right? So maybe Iramburner reflects that, right? Yeah. Because as we see in the first meeting, Talai is not a Urupu for Tolhapi, right? Even though he mentioned Talai, because Talai doesn't have this role, see, to determine the Vosai as it does for other grammarian. So he makes a statement to that effect. If you have Urichir, don't have to look at Tale, right? The Sir maps a line to the Vosai of the poem. This is also condition. See, when we saw that Asiriyappa has Vensi, right, which is Urichir of Venba, right? So you have Asiriyappa, and Tolapir says that Urichir will give you the Vosai, right? But you find not only Tarai of one pa in another pa, but also the Urichir, which by definition is specific to a pa, could occur in another pa. Right? So when Urichir also occurs in Asariya pa, how do you allow that? Right? This is counterexample, or this is breaking the rule, right? But no good poem could be thrown out by breaking the rule. Again, Perasariyar brings in the notion of Isai. Right? As long as Isai, the Vosai, is not affected by throwing in Urichir of one pa into another, it's okay. Right? And he quotes, this is said by in Tolapim himself. He says, "Insir iyeya varvadayan." So, insir iyeya varvadayan. So, if the vensir in Asiriyappa is insir, that is sweet seed, then it's okay. Right? I understand insir or innosai, which innisai, which commentators evoke very often, is not sweetness in the normal sense, but it's the harmony. Right? So any harmonious sound is a sweet sound, right? So they are looking for some harmony. If the harmony of Osai is not affected by throwing Vensir into Asriyappa, that is fine. So so the another sutra of Tolhapiyam defines Seer this way. Seer இயைந்து இருவது. So இயைந்து இருவது. இயைந்து refers to coherence. Right? இருவது is break. Right? So இயைவது, the coherence is between seers. The seers in a string should have ieibu, the coherence in terms of osai, right? And iruvadu is ending, that is at the end of the line. Right? So there is a coherence which stops at the end of the line.
If I can interrupt for just a second, when you just said that, the argument about coherence within a arti, I thought that then the unifying category would be tarai instead of osai, because that's how I understand that to work, right? Because talai governs, and I don't want to get us off track if we'll be coming to talai later, that talai governs the relationship from one seer to a next in a line, correct?
Yes, right.
So shouldn't that provide, I mean, unless we just have these two mutually inconsistent theoretical descriptions, we have the osai-based focused theory, and then we have which seems to be a kind of, which seems maybe to be a kind of practitioner's or...
Right? So the two things play a role in osai. One is seer, and there are three aspects of seer which determine osai. One is the length of each seer, right? Whether it is irasai, muvasai, nalasai, or whatever it is. The other is whether it's urichir or not. And the third one is the number of seers in adi. Whether it is irusiradi, not muchiradi, not siradi. So these three ways seer contributes to osai. Right? And the fourth one is talai, how the collocation takes place between seers. I'm not sure the relationship between talai's contribution to osai and the contribution of the other three factors to osai. Right? My sense is, I mean, this is purely my speculation, is that the first three determines or maps the osai, and talai gives some kind of variations in that, some kind of nuances to that. I mean, that's just a speculation to see whether there is any evidence for that. So this would mean that you could determine or map osai independent of talai. Right.
Which obviously you said, I mean, it was Perasira who claims as much, right?
Tolhapiyam also claims, but he puts only on urichir, not about the length of seer or length of line, but length of adi, but only urichir.
Okay. And Tolhapiyam says that.
Tolhapiyam clearly says something like urichir varin talai aridal venda, something like that, right? So you don't have to worry about talai, right? So talai is at a different level compared to the three factors of seer which determine the osai, right? And what their contributory relationship, I don't know.
But so, and going back to what you said earlier, though, so talai is a category that Tolhapiyam introduces, but doesn't explicitly theorize. In the same,
it doesn't include it under Urupu.
Right.
Yeah. He also says that talai exists between seers when you collocate seers, but he doesn't say it is indispensable, because you can know if the function of seer is to find osai, you can do it without talai. But talai exists. That is, poems exhibit some collocational restrictions on what seer could follow what.
So can I present just a hypothesis, a kind of intellectual historical hypothesis about Yapiyam? So, and we said that lots of different things are changing in the course of the theory, and that's what most of the scholarship most of the Tamil language scholarship is actually documenting. But could it be that we have originally this strong emphasis on osai, which does seem to be a kind of performer focused or kind of virtuosic, just kind of feel for the meter?
I don't know.
And then you have Talai, which comes to be, which is a more actual regulative, sort of norm-based grammar of how different seers can be arranged. And so we have these two things kind of in competition as different theoretical models in the history of the system.
Yeah.
And Per Asirir, unsurprisingly, comes in for the more conservative position, which is the Tolhapian position about Osei as the final determining instance.
That is true. That is one possible interpretation of the intellectual history of that. I mean, the practical problem is that since I have not read Seyudiel thoroughly, without referring to the commentary, since you want Tolhapia says, a commentary, particularly Nachinankini, is not helpful because he reads everything into Tolhapia.
Right, exactly.
Right? So I cannot say Tolhapia didn't say that or something like that. They would have always a lesus to say, oh, by this Tolhapia says what Apparangalam says here. So that's not helpful. Given that limitation, your interpretation is Talai is a regulatory mechanism. Another way of looking at it is the Talai is a kind of additive mechanism. Right? You have the Osei, and at this particular point you have two beats rather than one beat, or kind of thing. So in that way, it is not regulatory, but it is a facilitating one to make variations in Osei. Right?
Okay.
That's purely speculation.
I mean, okay.
Right. Yeah, as I said, I mean, you have to take much of what I say as a speculation to give a better status, a hypothesis on this, right? Yeah, but later grammarian, not later, I shouldn't say that. When you come to Tamil pedagogy, right, Talai is the crucial thing. It is a regulatory thing, right? It is, when you break Talai, it's not a good poem, kind of thing. I don't get that feeling when you read the earlier one. And that's the impression which students get, right? And that is the one new poets object to. Right? I don't want any regulatory mechanism for my mind to flow, right? That is the kind of attitude they take, right? So the according to Tolhapium, it is something இசைந்து இருவது. I think that's the word he uses. So இயைந்து இருவது. So he has two things. One, to provide cohesion within a line, and also determining where the line ends. Right? And where the line ends is determined by the number of seeds a line could have. Right? So that's the end. And the mechanism for that is called tuku, right? Which breaks lines, right? Tuku, and also probably that is extended to use breaking scenes, right? But we'll see more of it when we discuss Adi in that. But Ilamburanar takes tuku just as a synonym for Osei. He says that something like tukeninum as Oseininum okkum, something like that, to that effect. So my understanding, my sense of this is that tuku is a mechanism to determine Osei. It's not Osei itself. So it's a tool, or it's a method, or it's a device to see where you. Tuku comes from its etymological meaning. Tuku stands for balance. Right? So like a balance, see, you balance the Osei. Right? So if you think that one scale is up, you chop it off and put it in the next line, right? So that kind of balancing takes place. The same kind of balancing takes place seed also. If you feel there's a long seed, you break it. As we said, Asiriyadi could be broken into one GAD kind of thing. So this is a kind of toku is a kind of chopping board, right? See, you could do that, but it is to maintain or balance Osai. Right? But as I said, Lamborna takes it to be Osai itself. Right?
This is just a point of curiosity, but is tuku the source of the Hindi word tuk, meaning rhyme?
No. The tuku in Tamil means balance. Right? See, the balance when you have that. So, so it is a kind of balancing the Osai requirements.
Because I've always wondered about the Hindi tuk, because it doesn't, as far as I know, it doesn't.
What does that mean in Hindi?
Rhyme.
Rhyme.
Okay.
Yeah, here rhyme is todai. Yeah. Rhyme is todai. Tuku is different from todai. Maybe it has some relation to the note you asked me earlier. In a line they talk about balance and.
The shirari.
Yeah, see, right. So I mean, it has something to do with balance, balancing. Or if you talk in terms of weight, the Osai weight is redistributed. You see, if the balance is not even, kind of thing, right? So okay, okay. So the so we had three as I see. Okay. Okay. The so here they also okay. See the other factor I said is which determines Osai is the number of seeds in a line, right? It's one is seed length in terms of asai, the other is line length in terms of seeds, the number of seeds. So the standard they say is 4. Right? It's not mandatory, but 4 is the standard, which is called Aravadi, right? Aravu is the standard, it's the unspecified standard. In modern Tamil, they say Aravu Kuminji Pesana means goes beyond the limit kind of thing. So even though it is just measurement, you see, it gives the standard measurement. Then that's the one. And Perasriya, when he discusses about this Vensir in the middle of Asariya Pa, he says that I mean, the word he uses is Sir Mayangumaru Unarthudal Mudalittu. So when he's explaining the sutra where Tolhapiam says that when Sir could occur in Asariya Pa, he says that Sir Mayangumaru Unarthudal Mudalittu. So he introduces the concept of Sir Mayakam. Right? So you have a seed in a place where it is not expected, as it happens with Vensir. So you would see it when we come to Tadai, there is also Tadai Mayakam. Right? So when you expect one Tadai, you get another Tadai. See the.
Can I ask a question that's an
aside? Sure.
Is there any general discussion, whether in English or in Tamil in modern and secondary scholarship, about Mayangal just as a method for of how we deal with any kind of exception by the grammarians? Because we can have Mayakam basically of any category, right?
Yeah. Right. So Tinai Mayakam to Mei Mayakam.
Urubu Mayakam.
From Mei Mayakam up to the top, the Tinai Mayakam, right? Yeah, right. I don't know that there is any discussion of it. Once I wrote a short paper trying to say that there is something common between Mei Mayakam in Eluthathiharam and Urubu Mayakam in Sollathiharam and Thinai Mayakam in that, to make an argument that this technical term is consistent in all three chapters. He is not using them in an ordinary language sense of Mayakam.
So you're the person who's written about this. Okay, that's good to know.
But that was a very brief thing. I tried to relate all three in terms of having something different from what you expect, and that is acceptable, kind of thing. Right? When you come to prosody, also I think this is used with reference to Thalai and seed, and also it is used with Adi in the sense of when you prescribe 4 Adi, if it has 5, then it is Adi Mayakam. But interestingly, I don't know the explanations for it. They don't have Pa Mayakam, right? One Pa Mayangu with another Pa. When they come, they say Marut Pa. So there is Marutchi rather than Mayakam. Right? So these are different concepts like that. So my sense is that they are very particular about these 4 Pas. There's nothing more, nothing less. Right? So if you have a Marut Pa where you have mixing of Pas, I mean, then it doesn't create fifth Pa. Right? And I think Tolhapi himself make explicit statement about that. It is not a fifth Pa because it doesn't have its own properties. Right? It's a mixture of 2 properties, and therefore it is not separate one. And only when we come to, I think, 19th century, Swaminathan, he counts Marut Pa as a 5th Pa. And that is a kind of non-traditional way of looking at that. And then Sindhupa is another claimant for a separate Pa. I think there's a lot of ambiguity about that. And Swaminathan is, I think, seems to be more mechanical to me. He also includes Nurpa for sutras, also as another Pa type. So he has 6 Pa types. 4 plus Marutpa and Nurpa. Right? I don't see how you can bring Nurpa under one of the Pa types. Right? Osai is not a thing. Right. Anyway, yeah. But that is the reason why Pa Mayakam is resisted. Right? So Pa is unalterable thing. You can have a lot of flexibility within that. Right? But it remains a Pa. Right? You cannot change its personality in some way, and that comes from Osai. And as long as you allow that Osai need not be very pure, then you get a point, right? So you can have the same Pa and then have another Osai and all that. In that way, it seems to be the Tamil prosody is very flexible in that. I mean, they try to accommodate everything what poets have said, with some name or some something like that. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So the example which Perasir gives for seed mayakam, that is for a Ven seed occurring in Venba, is in that handout on seed, which is a citation from Purananuru, which is Tamil Thalai Mayangiya Thalayalankanathu. So it has 4 seeds: Tamil Thalai, Mayangiya, Thalayalankanathu. Thalayalam has 3 seeds. And that comes as prescribed by, as said by in Tolhapiam, comes in between he receives. Talayalangaram is the third one, and this would be a seer mayakam, according to Perasiriya. Then one more is a side point. Yeah, the relationship between seer and grammar, right? So the seer structure plays a role in editing, in Padavedam, right? So there is a book called Tirukkural Padavedamum Seerum or something like that by Amashanmugam. He gives some examples of Padabedam in Tirukkural, which also include Padabedam which is determined by seed structure rather than other factors in that. The one example he gives is Parimilala's Padam of the Tirukkural, I think which I have given in the handout on Thalai, which says that Irappare Illayan Ingan Manyalam Marappavai Senru Vandattu. Right? So the meaning is that if there are no people who beseech or ask for beneficence, the world is lifeless, right? Something like that. Right? So here the Irappare Illayan, right? This is the Padam of Parimilalaha. Right? Whereas others have Irappar Illayan. Right? Irappar Illayan is grammatically expected, right? Irappar is the subject, Illayan, if there are no Irappar, right? He puts it Irapparai because the next line is Marappavai. So Marappavai has 3 C's there, right? So to align with that, he changes, he prefers the C of Irapparai. So he goes to the extent of violating the grammar, right? In preference over maintaining parity with C's across lines, right? So I thought this is an interesting way of looking at to see, right? As a linguist, I had that interest of relating the grammar of ordinary language with the grammar of mystical language, how these two things to interact. Okay, so we saw that 3 C's, right? And with 3 C's. We already said you would have the possibilities of 3 C's if you have 2 asai theory. It will be 2 to the power of 3. Otherwise, it will be 4 to the power of 3. Right? Then comes, Tolapir clearly puts a ceiling, not more than 3 asai in a seal, right? And Perasiriya also goes along with him. As usually, Lamburunar finds some lesu and says that Tolapiyam allows 4 seal. And Perasiriya, as I said earlier, says some half jokingly, there are some people who use 4 as a cheer, but 5 as a cheer people are never to be found. Yandumila. I as a cheer holwa Yandumila. He says that. So the Nala Sachir is not admitted by Tolapiyam. And when you face with Nala Sachir, or even not only practical reasons, why you can do away with Nala Sachir, the commentators give these arguments. Right? One, when you have Nala Sachir, you can break it differently. right?
Mhm.
If you have 10 if you have 10 seeds in a line, instead of breaking 4-4-2, you could say 3-3. No, okay. I mean, it's not easy because there are other restrictions that you cannot have OSHE, so certain divisions are not allowed. And also Asidia Power will have 2 seeds, so you cannot break it in certain way. But given all these restrictions, there is some possibility, there is some flexibility of breaking that. So you first try to break the thing and keep the rule. I mean, keep the theory. That is one. And the other thing is, they say, what is okay, but they say that you can also bring in the notion of what's called Tanichal in Venba, right? So there is a seed which stands by itself, right? Tanichal, that you find in Venba as well as in other things, right? Tanichal basically has two properties. One is it's not syntactically connected to the preceding seeds, and second thing is likely to be isomorphic with words, right? So that's why it also has a name, Sod Chief, right? It's a seed which is also Sod, right? So that say that instead of taking it as as a seed with porosite, you can make one into a tanichol, right? So that would make keep it within the limit, and that becomes easy when you go to the later grammars. Again, I haven't checked fully Tulhapiam, right? From what I've read, it says that in earlier time there is a specific place for Tanichal, which is the second line in Venba. But later on they expanded that Tanichal could come at the end of each line. Right? So they bring in the potri forms, right? So every line will end in potri in the bhakti, and that is a Tanichal,
Right.
and therefore you can break it see, in that way. And they also expanded to say that Tanichal could be in the beginning of a line, right? So that is some kind of topic and comment, right? So it's also in Bhakti poem, you say that Tol, then you make a description of the Tol. So the first seer is just Tol, right? Tol, Malayan or something like that. So you can take it as a topic of the whole sentence. The comment follows. So they have made it. They have made the Tanichal a flexible thing, and so that gives you a flexibility of breaking asais in a different different way. So with the Tolhapia's notion of 4 as a sheet, you run into empirical problems, right? So this Pichai in his Yapiyal of Sangam gives examples where Sangam poems have 4 asai, right? 4 asai cheat. Not many, but there are. So if you take 4 asai cheat, which end in ner, there are 17 of them, right? And 4 asai cheat, which end in nirai, there are only 4 of them, right? So the ner asai cheat, I mean, 4 asai cheat ending in ner is relatively more common. It's in the handout which I gave. The one example I'll give here is from Purnaratu Padai, Kanakoli Kadagutta. So Kanakoli is ner. So that is 4 aside. And then in Pattinapalai, you have Tollani Nallasiriyar. Right? Here Nallasiriyar is ner. right? That is also 4 asai. And then from Purananuru, you have Udandu nokkum vai erithavala. Udandu nokkum vai erithavala. Here it would be Nirebu is involved. Nirebu, ner, right? And also you have again from Purananuru, Manekkoli Paimpayirinan, Paimpayirinnne, right? That is ner, nirai, ner. And Vuvesa has a different reading, Paimpayirinane, right? So that would be ner, nirai, ner, right? So this okay. There is very few examples of 5 C's, 5 asais in a C, right? Which is rather unusual. The example is Purananuru, which is Teemuraniya Neerum. Teemuraniya Neerum is 5 asai. So there are some counter examples like this in Sangam. But the interesting fact about that is that they could be treated as 1GAD, right? So so you could and also say that 1GAD is freer than other ones. So you could have Nalasai or even ISI in a 1GAD. So even in as when seed is found in the middle of Asayappa, you could have 1GAD in Asayappa. That's the Nadimayakam, right? So we see that in Purananuru editions. You see, some would be two seeds and some would be 3 seeds and things like that. So if this is treated as 1GAD, this just tells us that the 4 seeds started to come in 1GAD, not in other ADs, right? And some people argue that this suggests chronologically earlier place for 1GAD, right? And then the grammarian came and chopped off the other one. Right? Anyway, there is an empirical counterexample to the theory of not having more than Movasai, but you can find some explanations or other. So when you come to this Nalasai Chir, there is no Vaivadu obviously in Tolkapiam because he doesn't allow Nalasai Chir. In the later grammars give a Vaivadu. They take the Irasai as the base and then add Tannilal for Nirai. So Teman Tannilal would be 5, and so you could so to for so you know that the formula for the other asais would be ESC would be with te and ma. Te ma would be ner, and kuviram would be for nirai. See, like that you could have te and ma and ku and vilam, and that would determine the structure. When you come to 3 Cs, see, it would be you add kai for those which end in ner asai, and then kani for those which end in in Nirayasai. So Temangai, Temangani, these would give the all various possibilities. So it's a very easy way of referring to the whole thing. And then when it comes to Nalasachir, it would be something like Teman Tanilal and things like that. One consequence I missed to point out about the dropping of Uriyasai, that is Nerbu Asai, is that you require it to define the final seed of Venba. Right? So they have that they end in U, right? So they have devised
The final
a
assay,
new.
excuse me, the final assay of Asirpa, right?
No, final
Venba.
assay of Venba. See, the last line would have 3 C's, and the last one would be would have Orasai.
Okay.
Yeah. So that also ends commonly with U, right? So that has to be counted as U. So they have come up with a new code or formula which says that Nar is the one which ends in Ner at the end of Venba, and Pirapu is the one which for the Nirai Asai. I mean Venba which ends with the Nirai Asai as the last day. I mean, I try to say is that they could not get away from Ner and Nerbu, right? It has to be accommodated in some ways. So this is about seed. So any questions about that?
I have 2 questions.
Yeah.
So one is about the Ventir, and relates to what you just said, which is the extent to which Nervu is still needed as a category. So Ventir has to end in Ner, right?
Yeah.
So does that mean that that if it ends in Nerbu, then it will not be a Ventir, or is that counted as also a Ventir? Or a Haichir?
Yeah, right. Okay. I have to check whether Movasechir can end in Nerbu. Right? That's the question, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. My guess would be that it would be counted as Ner, because Vensir is Kaichir, right? Ka
Right.
is Ner. So you had to bring in the earlier principle you suggested, that Ner is equal to Nerbu.
Yeah.
Right. So if you have that equation, then that also would be Kai in that sense. They have never used other terms for that, right? So it is Kai. So
The reason why I didn't, actually, Andrew, you had a second question. Sorry, go ahead.
Okay, yeah, well, it should be quick. So in the list of Assyria Kurichir, so there's 10,
yeah.
Which is 2 less than I would have expected.
What are the ones you expected?
So
The only condition they say you should have Nerbu and Nerebu, right?
Well, yeah, exactly. You should have Nerbu Ner and Nerabu Ner.
Yeah.
Just if we're including all of the possibilities, and they're not included in that list. And I was wondering whether that means. So it occurred to me that Nerbu Ner and Nerabu Ner, and both of them can be parsed as Ner Nirai and Nirai Nirai, respectively. So I wonder whether this means that, so the only reason why you would parse a chir as nerbu ner or niraibu ner in the first place is because of tarai. In other words, this goes back to our discussion about Udaya, Wakai. So we considered it nerbu ner because the following asai was ner. But it looks like nerbu ner is not marked as Assyria Urichir at all, and I wonder whether this means that whether we have to accept the penalty, so to speak, of having the wrong telai and parsing that instead as ner nerai, kongu there, I mean.
Is it also that those two cases would also be liable to be scanned as Venjia in that case? Because they would each end in a Nayad, and they would each conceivably have three asai to them, right? So, but following that same principle that Andrew just...
Yeah, that is when you analyze nerbu as ner, right? Yeah. So you are...
or nerbu as ner, right?
Yeah. Nerbu as ner, yeah, right. Yeah. So, but that should not end up in nalasai, right?
No.
So it has to be within 3, right? If it is within 3, that is possible. Yeah. But
that's an adjunct to that question. That's why I interrupted you before, because I had thought that nerbu and niraibu, as we even see in this Urichi logic, where there is some connection between these extra asai and the ahaval meter, I thought that the occurrence of nerbu and niraibu were really particular to ahaval or Assyriapa. That's why I was surprised to say you talking about them coming up in the scansion of Venba. Was I correct? I mean, maybe my prior assumption's incorrect.
No. See, nerbu, niraibu is an asai per se, but it is special to Assyriapa.
Okay.
It's not prohibited from other.
Right. But it's necessary in some sense for Assyriapa.
Yeah, for the war side of Assyriapa.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, right.
Okay, but it can occur as a possibility of the parsing or the scansion of any of our other 3 meters.
Yeah, specifically they say it does occur in Vanjipa.
Okay.
Right. All the 60 asais
right.
would be there. And Venba also, I don't think it is prohibited, right? Because it is Urichir of Assyriapa. It's a cheer of Alpas.
Okay, I understand.
Right. I think that's my understanding.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, I see of this, right? Yeah. So we have this.
I have a question actually. Did you discuss whether the restrictions on the occurrence of nerbu and niraibu? Because there's one rule which I seem to remember which says that they actually are not supposed to occur in front of a consonant, which would limit the possibility. So actually, scanning Kongu Warke does not yield nerbu ner possibility, because ter is a consonant in the next. Normally, there are 4 cases like kase and the Kutjal Ugaram cases.
I don't know whether that
somewhere. I have to find
I don't know
it,
whether that restriction exists for nerbu. As far as I could see from the commentaries of Tulvapiam, it is there is no such restriction.
I have to see if I can find the place. That's what I seem to remember. Because normally, otherwise you have many more. This would limit severely the possibilities to scan, and you really only need it in cases where you need to count. As an extra syllable, which isn't there because it's followed by a consonant, by a vowel in the sandhi, so it disappears. But you're short one short syllable, and so you count it extra, rather than having it occur regularly in cases like Kongu Tervarke. So that normally should be nirai.
Yeah. Right.
But I don't know. I have to see and find where this is.
Yeah, I think,
sure
I mean, these are interesting questions which are a consequence of dropping Nebu and Nerebu. Right? It's not just dropping two and go ahead.
No.
It's So it has certain theoretical consequences of scanning as well as scansion as well as the types of seeds.
Is the dropping sort of theorized though in Yaparungalam or something?
Yeah.
So does somebody say, and now we drop it and then everything?
They don't say they drop it. They say that there are two asais.
Okay. And that's just
four
they,
asai.
I mean,
Four
so
asai.
they don't mention the other system.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we still don't really quite know, because I remember asking Jean-Luc Cheviat when he thought this whole thing occurred, but I don't remember his answer. So
Yeah.
I asked him in 2011. I remember that too. I remember the occasion, but I don't know what he said.
As far as I could see, there is no rejection of that. There's no argument why you don't need Nebu and Nerebu, but they simply state that there are two asai, Ner and Nebu, and four combinations of that.
Right. So everywhere post Tolkapiam, we don't have a mention of Nerbu and Nerebu anymore. None of these. It's not in Ilakana Vilakam or.
Oh, thank you.
Now that
you
I
reminded me. So Ilakana Vilakam resurrects Nirguna.
See, I'm not. I'm not surprised. Okay,
that he does that, but I didn't look at the actual text. This is from my secondary reading that he resurrects. So I don't know the reasons for his resurrection.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
So he resurrects, but none follows him.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
So the Kalam is a dominant one. Right. The feeble attempt of Ilakana Vilakam to resurrect Tolkapiam system didn't have followers. Right. But it would be interesting to see what the reasons he gives that, or simply says that. I mean, he is Kuti Tolkapiam anyway, right? So I like to be close to Tolkapiam. I forgot to mention that point.
Sorry, I have to.
Yeah, sure. But again, as an intellectual historical question, though, of course, the commentators maintain it, though. I mean, so it's not that it completely falls out of favor. It's just associated exclusively with the system.
Yeah, I mean, the system follows in a surreptitious way. Right? That's why you have a different system of alahidu. In some cases, you don't alahu, you don't count the u, right? Right. So if you have Nervu Nerevu, there's no problem, right? So the alahu doesn't come into the picture. Right? So this is I mean, that's why I said they cannot completely get out of the system, right? But they have found indigenous ways of dealing with that, right from Venba to developing new mononymic forms, and also this new alahidu, new measurement. I mean, alahidu, if you go by literal thing, it should be unitization. Right? That is the function of alahidu, right? So you determine what the units are. So if you encounter Nerbu, you simply ignore that, right? So that is how they handle.
Right. So just you can leave it out for the purposes of scansion.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. That's the
Which
kind
gets the same result as acknowledging Nerebu and Nebu, but.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, but not admitting it into the system.
Right.
Right. So it becomes a kind of methodological issue rather than a theoretical issue. Right? You count or don't count. Right? So,
it has an additional consequence, though, which is that that if they are ignored, then that means that that Nerbu is metrically identical to Ner, and Nerabu is metrically identical to Nerai, which, if they were treated as separate asai, then you would need an extra rule stating the equivalence.
Yeah. Right. Right. Yeah. Right. Yeah.